Hello, everybody. How's it going? Can't help it. Some intro music to start you off there. So, welcome. This is the kind of long-waited. I've been planning to do this for a while, but motivation. Hello, 64-page special. How are you? So in front of me here, I have my list of my 500 comic goal. So it was a tag that I did on Twitter. Good morning, Larasa. It was a tag that I did on Twitter, and I was tracking 500 comics that I was going to read over the course of a year. It took me a lot less time than that. I'm going to break this video up into two parts. I'll probably do the second part live next weekend. Probably same, well, maybe not same time, but next Sunday anyway. So tonight we're going to look at the DC and Vertigo titles. We're going to look at Marvel. We're going to look at Image. We're going to look at Fantagraphics, and then an honorable mention of Dark Horse. We'll probably end on Fantagraphics, actually. And then the next video, next week's, will be all the European stuff, along with kind of what I put into the mixed bag, which is everything else. So that's kind of one issue or a few issues from a small indie company from the 80s. That's some more art type comics. That's some self-published stuff. All sorts of things there. Just having a quick look. Yeah. It really is a mixed bag. Sorry, bumping the microphone there. It really is a mixed bag of stuff. You know, there's even Boom Studio stuff. There's Aftershock stuff as well too. So that last video I think will be that'll be an interesting one, because I went through these lists already and kind of highlighted everything and sort of put them in some sort of like top 5-ish. I don't normally do stuff like this, so bear with me. So we'll start with DC and Vertigo. So the other thing that I did is I put beside, if there was stuff that I really didn't like and then got rid of. You can see that Batman Annual number 5 there is a great example. It's gone. So I sort of made note as I was going through this of stuff that I've since traded away. These days I don't hold on to stuff if I don't like it, if I don't see myself revisiting it. I just don't hold on to it. I really am trying to limit things here with what stays. And honestly, I just don't have time for stuff that I wasn't crazy about. And plus, because I have so many guys here in town that I can trade things with, I'd much rather pass it on and see if I can get some books that I really want. So there was a lot of stuff on here. I mean, there was things that I didn't talk about. Batman The Adventure Continues, for example. That's just a no-brainer. I really enjoyed that. There was things like the Dr. Fate 4-issue miniseries that I enjoyed. It just didn't make the top 5. There was some Phantom Stranger stuff. There was a Phantom Stranger 4-issue miniseries as well that I thoroughly enjoyed, but again, just didn't make the list. But it doesn't mean that they were bad reads. And honestly, as I look through the DC stuff, it's one of those where kind of 90% of the books I did really enjoy. There's not too many on this list that I look back on and think that it sucked, which is a positive thing. And I think I spoke about this before too in a video. I was surprised. I guess I always consider myself sort of lately anyway, a Marvel guy, but I didn't do the numbers. Let me just have a look. But I think DC and Vertigo beat out the amount of Marvel books that I read. And I think that's partially due to the fact that, you know, Vertigo is thrown in there. And now also the Black Label stuff too. So, right. Starting off with one that was kind of a surprise to me. So I read Action Comics Weekly number 605 and 607. Since then, I've also picked up issue 606. I'm trying to pick up the issues that are in and around there because there's a couple of really great stories in there. Six. Got them all in different bags here. Oh, anyway, okay. So in and around this, there's a Secret Six story. There's Dead Man, of course. There's Wild Dog. There's Black Hawk as well. So here's the Secret Six. And this was kind of a really nice surprise because I didn't ever really dig into these. I didn't think I would like them. And I was completely wrong. So this was a really nice kind of rediscovery, I guess, for me. And I mean, obviously, the first thing that drew me to it was Dead Man. I had a couple of these issues already that I picked up in the cheap bins because of the Dead Man story. And now that I've actually sat and read a couple, I know that these pop up fairly often in kind of like dollar bins, $2 bins, that sort of thing. So I don't think they're incredibly hard to get. Oh, sorry about that. That's my shelf that's there, my little rack. I don't think they're that hard to find, a lot of these. So that was really nice. And even the stuff that I'm not as into, like Green Lantern, it's fine. You know, you can kind of pass over those short stories. And I do like the idea of getting these little chunks of stories as well too. There's Black Hawk. This isn't Mike Grell. So Rick Burchett, a name from, of course, Batman Adventures, with a bit of a different style here for sure in this Black Hawk. So that's kind of nice. So that's a really nice rediscovery. Let's have a look here. Hello, Cthulhu Handshake. Let's go back here. So we have Mike Barron doing the writing, Dan Jurgens doing pencils, and Tony DeZuniga doing the inks on the Dead Man story there. Don't know if you can see those credits on the rock face there, but that's who's on the Dead Man duties. So that one is number 5 on the kind of, I don't know, top 5. So for DC and Marvel, it was I did a top 5, even though there was more that I could have added to the list for sure. Number 4. So I put this one at number 4, and I didn't talk about the series itself, which I'm also really enjoying. I kind of picked this one out because this was the first thing that I tried again from Swamp Thing. So this is the Legend of the Swamp Thing, the Halloween Spectacular. This is the book that really got my attention, and just thinking about Swamp Thing as a character again. And then I jumped into the Ram V series, and as I've spoken about before, I really am enjoying that. It's maybe not blowing me away like the Layla Starr from Ram V, but I do really enjoy it. And I thought the way that this was put together, it's just a bunch of short stories, was just really appealing to me, having him kind of almost be the horror host, this tree rather that he's kind of sitting with and comforting is kind of this horror host. And then it sort of does lead us into a transition to the new series as the old Swamp Thing kind of dies along with the tree, which then is the jumping off point sort of for the next series as we rediscover a new avatar of the Green. So there's that one. That was that's number 4 on that list. Number 3 was thanks to Damien, and I think a few of us ended up picking this up. Rima the Jungle Girl. I still am missing an issue. I think just one issue is what I'm missing. But it's one of the things about doing all this comic stuff on YouTube. You do kind of get pulled into these worlds when you see somebody else really excited by a series. Yeah, it's well worth picking up there. Cthulhu Hand Luke, rather, not Handshake. It's infectious seeing somebody raving about a comic sometimes. And when it looks as good as this one does, let's see. Yeah, here we go. When it looks as good as this, I remember Damien opening the book and showing this, and I was sold immediately, and kind of went the next day to try to hunt some of these down. Really, really great read. Yeah, Rasa, it was really amazing to get pulled into this world here. Let's see if we can find a couple of other pages too. I mean, it's got that nice mix of, I don't know. First of all, there's this sort of nature spirit person. You know what I mean? It's almost like this metaphysical tale. This sort of ghostly. It sort of fits in that world of magic that I really do like about DC with the specters and the dead man and the swamp things. Even if it wasn't a solid read throughout this entire first, what do I have, 5 or 6 issues here? It starts off really, really strong with the first 3 or 4 issues. And then, of course, with the Alex Nino backup story, Space Voyagers, or script by Jack Olick. That's a really nice discovery as well. And I mean, Alex Nino has really exploded on my radar this year for sure. It's a name that I'd always heard of, but it just feels like his name is popping up in so many different areas, and all the way from Marvel and DC stuff all the way down to these kind of 80s independent comics where he's doing backup stories or he's doing a full story. I think specifically of the Young Master one shot there, the Demon Blade. But this is a fantastic series, and I'm really, really glad that Damien brought it all to our attention, and we all ended up getting hooked on this sucker. Sorry for bumping the mic there. So that was number 3. Number 2 for me on the list, I think, was Nice House on the Lake. And it was a toss-up, I think, between this and the number 1. This one kind of, and I think the one thing that put this over the top is on this My 500 Comics list, I'd only read number 1 and 2. Number 1 really got me. 2 was interesting and still got my attention. I think 3 is where it really just put it over the edge for me. But 3 wasn't part of this, so that might have kind of boosted it up to number 1. But this is a fantastic story by Tinian and Martinez Bueno and Jordi Belair, I believe, right? I just really, really like the premise. I like that I went in blind. I knew nothing about it when I grabbed that first issue. It just seemed like it was one of those books that was catching a lot of people's attention and a lot of buzz. So this is a fantastic read. Don't regret it for a second. But what ended up nudging it out of number 1 was my discovery of hello Tylox the Mighty, my discovery of Sweet Tooth, and plowing through this compendium that I don't think I've ever read a book this fast, especially something this thick. Like when it comes to comics, I was completely absorbed in this. So I saw the TV show and loved the show, and just started hearing, it was always a book that was on my radar, and for some reason I never gave it a chance. I always end up stopping and looking at the covers when I was flipping through the bins and finding these books, or seeing these books rather, but I just never gave it a shot. What is it, 40 issues? Yeah, 40 issues, the full 40 issue series. And I know there's new stuff now. I just haven't dipped my toes into it yet, or a new mini series anyway. But giving the show a try and then jumping into these books and seeing that they were kind of different from each other, and just honestly hearing what a couple of people said about the books versus the show. The Masters of Evil podcast here on YouTube, they mentioned that it was one of those rare occasions where even though the book and the show were different from each other, they were both really, really fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I love all the turns this series takes. It makes me even more excited about the rest of the show. So this is a strong number one for me. It was really such a great read. So that's it for DC. And Marvel, I didn't pull it out, but I mean, I guess one of the kind of honorable mentions in the Marvel section is finally getting my hands on Doctor Strange issue 169 and sitting down and reading 169. Number 169 was the 500th book that I read. And then my number 501 was when I got my hands on Strange Tales 115. So reading his origins from two different spots, I think was really, really great. What else kind of stood out? Electra Saga number 1. The only reason Electric Saga number 1 didn't make it kind of on the top 5 is just because I had the first issue. I now have, I managed to find, I don't know if I mentioned this afternoon, I managed to find the full 4-issue set this weekend at a comic garage sale. So that's here in my to-read pile right beside me. Yeah, and then the Strange Tale stuff, and then the Defenders. I'm up to kind of issue 16 now in my Defenders run. Another one that I filled in the last book that I needed for the first 100, so I've got that now. So, but starting at number 5, I pulled one of these. This one, I think it kind of mirrors something that I'll talk about next week, because there was a new version of this that came out that I really enjoyed. So Conan has been a book that I've never really thought that I would get into. It didn't really appeal to me. And as tastes generally do, my tastes changed. I think part of that was the discovery of Val Merrick. And then part of that definitely was these Sumerian books that have been re-released by Ablaze. Really got my interest because I love the treatment in there. And then talking to Damien about it and talking to Rasa about it on our weekly show there, this was a no-brainer to give a shot to this Red Nails story. I believe this is one that Damien sent us, and nice to see the comparison between the Ablaze version and this Marvel version as well too. So I mean, I didn't want to pull out the other Conan books that I've read to show them all, but this one just kind of is really good and significant for kind of the rest of the series for me. I'll go back and see what I've missed here in the comments. Bags and boards, right? Loved Rima. Haven't read number 3 yet. Chaos and Comics. I'm assuming you're talking about Last House on the Lake, or Nice House on the Lake, rather. Yeah, solid. Tylok saying he dropped. Yeah, that they're gonna break it up in 2 parts, and I totally get that. I'm on board. I don't mind the wait. Yeah, I mean, Chaos is saying the same thing. Haven't read Sweet Tooth yet, but it has lots of fans. It sure does, and I think I'm just really glad that the show got made and kind of got my attention, and forced me to kind of rethink it. I don't know if it was one of those books that I avoided because it always had a lot of fans and it was always talked up. I like to think I'm not like that when it comes to some of these things, but maybe I'm just as susceptible to it as anybody else. Nice score because of Barry Windsor Smith art. Yeah, for the Conan stuff, Rasa. Absolutely. So number 4 on that list was the Beta Ray Bill series by Daniel Warren Johnson, 5-issue miniseries. Is this my favorite Daniel Warren Johnson? No, I think the Wonder Woman Dead Earth is my favorite so far that I've read. And, right in around there, that Superman one-shot that I talked about on last week's show. But this was really, really great. A hell of an artist, a hell of a writer, just a really fun book. And just feels like a creator who's sort of knows how to play the game a little bit too, working for DC, working for Marvel, and then going to go out on his own and do another creator-owned independent book. So not much else to say about that one. Just a really, really great read. Number 3, another one I won't talk about too much. Finally getting my hands on the Doctor Strange, The Oath. Hello, Sleepy Reader. Finally getting my hands on the 5-issue miniseries, The Oath. Man, this was really, really great. I mean, anything Doctor Strange is going to be pretty high on the list. Just really fantastic read. I love the focus that it takes with Doctor Strange and Wong, and just kind of how close they are and how much he's going to do for Doctor Strange, for Stephen Strange, in any sort of scenario, just to let the Doctor kind of focus on stuff. So yeah, really fantastic series. And this was a difficult choice because both of these last ones were so strong. But Marvel, the 5-issue Marvel series, comes in at number 2 for me. Love it. I've raved about it repeatedly. I won't rave about it too much more. This is the kind of treasury-sized edition, and it's well worth it. It's one of those rare occasions where I double dipped. So I've got all the single issues and could not resist this oversized treasury edition. Yeah, gorgeous book. I've talked about it multiple times. And then what made number 1 crack for breakfast, Rasa? Yeah. What made number 1 was Elektra Lives Again. This blew my mind when I read it. I can't believe it's one of those books that I waited so long to get my hands on. Again, one that I raved about on the, I don't know, the week that I read it anyway, a couple of weeks ago. The panels are great. The pages are great. Even though in this format they have a lot of white space top and bottom, and apparently there's a bigger format, which I'll absolutely be keeping my eyes be keeping my eyes open for. This was still really just visually appealing, and the story itself was fantastic. Yeah, I really, really dug this book a lot. This kind of multiple page fight scene with Elektra jumping out of the snow to rescue Daredevil while he's being attacked by ninjas. Fucking amazing. Really great. Ninja in the snow, exactly. So that's number 1. So I put all these back here. We'll jump into I believe we've got the Image stuff coming. So on the list of stuff that's gone, there was a graphic novel, Bionic, that I had bought. Just didn't do anything for me. I didn't really like it, so that's gone. The couple of issues of Haha that I had, they're gone. Hey Kids Comics from Chaikin, that's gone. So yeah, a fair bit that's not in the collection anymore from Image Comics. Other than that, there was quite a lot of good stuff. So it was a little hard to kind of, again, especially the kind of top 1 and 2. It was tough to kind of sort through that. But I started it off with, oh, this is Fantagraphics. That's the wrong pile. Sorry. Here we go. What do we got here? So much stuff. It's incredible when you kind of sit and look at everything that you've read for the year, or not even for the year, for half of a year. Number 5, so Cain and Abel, the one shot. Damien and I spoke about this. I think we were both of the same mind about it. This was an absolute blast to read. Really great art, uh, kind of borderline ridiculous, and then sometimes completely fucking ridiculous. Shaky Cain doing his usual Shaky Cain touch with everything, sort of touching on Marvel and sort of touching on his own thing. This last story by Abel here was really great as well too, and that seems to be what I'm showing mostly is his work. Let's go to some Shaky Cain here. Where's that page that is just beautiful with the blue and the, there we go, the blue and the spaceship off in the distance. So that was a real fantastic read. So that's number 5. Number 4, probably no surprise. Try not to bump the microphone here. Cruel Summer by Brubaker and Phillips. Such a good book, especially contrasting it with the Reckless series that I read this kind of first half of the year as well too. This just stands head and shoulders above it. Fantastic. Talked about it a million times, so that's as far as I'll go with it. Really great. Number 3 for me. So these top 3 were pretty easy to think about and throw on the list. It was just what order to put them in. Two Moons, another one of those that I didn't really know anything about it when I jumped into it. As much as I was not disappointed with the last issue, it just didn't really seem to tie something up enough. And then thankfully afterwards we find out that they are going to do some more issues, so that makes it that was the thing that kind of solidified it on the list. This was such a good read, unexpected, taking some really nice twists, and still ultimately being kind of like this monster story, you know, which that's not a disparaging remark whatsoever. I still really loved it. Number 2, you know, how difficult, but Rain Like Hammers. Another one that multiple people talked about, Damien and myself especially. This Rain Like Hammers was phenomenal. Every single issue, it seemed, especially the way that it started and the way that it developed, hearing a little bit from Brandon Graham about how this series, it started, he had one thing in mind when he started it, and it just started, the story started to kind of change on him and develop as he was writing the issues. Really fantastic journey, visually just stunning. His art seems like it's really hit another level in this series, and it really makes me, and I think Damien said the same thing, just rethink him as an artist and want to go back and look at some of his older work too, just to kind of get a comparison and get kind of a sense of where he was coming from, and where he currently is. And then finally, probably no surprise to anybody, number 1 on my list so far this year, from this 500 comics, is the Carmen miniseries 1 to 5. Raved about it every single issue. You can go back and see those. Yeah, it was so close for me, Damien. Honestly, like when we're looking at kind of the big 3, this one I think just nudges it out, but not by very much. These top 2 are so damn close for me in my head. This one just nudges it out just a little bit because I was just completely absorbed in this story. I love the art in this. I love the way he uses the pages and the way he told a story. I love the way even the characters move through the pages. And I mean, all of this that I could say about Carmen, you could absolutely say about Rain Like Hammers, because he's doing so much unique stuff in this series. But flying boobies for the win. That's right. Yeah, exactly right, Ross. Flying boobies for the win. But yeah, so that was my number 1. Like I said, though, extremely close. So then we have some Dark Horse. I didn't really put these into any sort of, I didn't put these into a list because there wasn't that many of them. So I thought we'd just kind of look at all of the Dark Horse that I read this year, since there was such a small stack. Another one of those dollar bin finds that was a really nice surprise, Sergio Aragone's Boogeyman, issue number 1. It's a 4-issue miniseries. It's sort of Sergio's kind of comedy take on the horror anthologies. I still haven't found the other 3 issues. That said, though, I haven't kind of gone out of my way to look for them either. I should really try to find the rest of these, because this was a really fun read. Dark Horse also had Mr. Lesniewski. Is it Matt Lesniewski? And then, Matt Kint and I'm forgetting Lesniewski's first name there. Crimson Flower. The story sort of fell flat-ish for me near the end. But again, for this one, it was all about the visuals for me. His art is just incredible throughout this. The coloring is beautiful by Mr. Crabtree, BFF of Sleepy Reader. Also Matt. Okay, that was right then. So Matt, and Bill. Amazing art. Really want to see more from him. I think he's starting a independent creator-owned book now too. There's been some kind of hints at some artwork that he's been showing off on his Twitter page. It wouldn't be a list of Dark Horse, and I'd say out of all the Dark Horse stuff that I read, this is number 1 for me. Norse mythology, it's back for a second volume as well too, but this was the first volume. Again, one of those really nice surprises. Conan, Thor, all this kind of fantasy elements creeping into my reading. But this is just such a damn good book, and just so well told, with some gorgeous art from the covers all the way throughout each issue. So that was definitely the highlight. Parasomnia. The only one that I read that made it to this top 500 was issue number 1. And issue number 1 alone didn't sell me on it. It was issue 2 where, again, it really solidified the story that I'm on board. I'm sticking around for this for sure. I don't know if it would have made the list at all if I'd just read the 1 issue and not gone any further with it. So I am very glad that I decided to pick up the second one. And what would a Dark Horse video, or a top 500 talking about Dark Horse, if we didn't talk about Mr. Fat Dog Mendoza? I mildly panicked because it wasn't in the drawer where it should have been. It was tucked away in a different box. So this was an absolute blast as well. Again, taking your chances on some of these dollar bin books or $2 bin books. Sometimes they really pay off. This was so goddamn funny. Even the week that we ended up talking about it, it got a good reaction from people in the chat and in the room. So Fat Dog Mendoza. I had some first comics that I read. I read some American Flag, 2 issues. I read some Whisper. All of the first comics that I read, which was 5 books, they're all gone. I've traded them all away. I'm going to try to get into getting an American Flag collection as opposed to all of the issues. Whisper, it was fun enough to read, but it just wasn't a book. It was the Femja book, and it just didn't capture me as much as I was hoping it would. Even though it was entertaining enough, it wasn't something that I wanted to take up space. So all of these first comics that I read here are gone. I've still got a bunch of first comics, but these ones are done for. And then finally for tonight, just to kind of end Fat Dog Mendoza returns, absolutely. Just to end off on a high note that'll sort of lead us into next week's video. Fantagraphics, man. From revisiting stuff, I reread 8 Ball number 1. I read some Frank books. I Before E number 2, which is Max Sam Keith. Sam Keith, Is That All That There Is? Which is the collection from the European artist whose name I'm blanking on right now, the architect. The Now anthology, Nurture the Devil, Real Deal, Sake Jock, and Yahoo #3. There was a lot of great stuff visiting old and kind of new from Fantagraphics. So the top 5 for Fantagraphics for me so far. #5 is Zigzag from Will Sweeney. This kind of oversized, you can see this is a treasury sized bag and board, so not quite treasury size, but pretty damn close, bigger than a magazine. Will Sweeney is one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite designers. He's worked with clothing companies, he's worked with skateboard companies, he's done animation for music videos, he does just kind of art. I think he's a DJ as well too. So he's got his hands in a whole bunch of different things. This is just gorgeous. Oh, also toy design. He has some kind of designer toys out there. One of them was going to be one of the characters. I think this character from the front cover actually was getting made into a toy, or had been made into a toy. Beautiful, beautiful pages. 6-panel layouts for each page. And just beautiful to look at. Really, really love this. I'm so glad that he's still around. I'm so glad that he's still producing work. And it's such an incredible level. So that was #5. What do we got here? That goes there. #4 and #3 are both Daniel Clowes books. Honestly, they're all, both of these are pretty much in the same spot. It was just kind of arbitrary that I put Wilson at #4 and David Boring at #3. They're both fantastic reads. Again, some of those things of why haven't I read more Daniel Clowes after 8 Ball, and after Lloyd Llewellyn, and after Ghost World, etc. And before Patience, because Patience was such a good read too when I read that the year it came out. So it's been really great. Oh, sorry, and this is drawn in quarterly, so I'm even wrong about this. I thought this was Fantagraphics as well, but whatever. We're lumping it in here. So Wilson, and then David Boring, and this is Pantheon. So great. So neither of these are Fantagraphics. I guess I associate Clowes with Fantagraphics. Whatever, you're Fantagraphics because I say you are. Too late now. So David Boring, same thing, just an incredible story. The journey of these characters that he takes you on is something else. Just his ability to manipulate these characters and manipulate you as a reader to sort of lull you into just this, that you don't know what you're going to get. This one particularly notable for his superpower of knowing what a woman's ass will look like by looking her in the eye. Yeah, absolutely, Damien. Thought Fantagraphics. Yeah, exactly. I just associate him with Fanta. Tylox, Terrence and Damien, kings of pulling and finding books I've never heard of or seen. Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. It's always good to do that. I thought that this was going to be a difficult decision, and then when I sat down and looked at the list, it was pretty much a no-brainer. But again, another top 1 and 2 that are very, very close to each other. #2, Monsters by Barry Windsor Smith. Oh, there you go. 64-page special, giving me the out. Technically, David Boring came out in a Fantagraphics collection first, so it's totally cool that it's on this list. Well, thank God. Zigzag was Will Sweeney, is his name. Sweeny. He's done some, I'll show them off another time because I've been a fan for a while. I've got a bunch of his comics that I can pull out of the shelves at some point. Man, this was a hell of a read. This was a difficult read. at times, but so good. Yeah, again, just go back. If those of you that are watching fully know all of our thoughts on these books, um, unbelievable the way that he tells the story, and just kind of the characters involved and how they each tell their story. I'm so glad that this didn't turn into a I'm so glad that this didn't turn into a Hulk story. I just think it would have lost something within that world. I don't think he could have gone nearly as far as he ended up going with this story if it just would have been a Hulk story. Um, just incredible. There was a bunch of us that jumped on this when it came out, and just a fucking outstanding read. But for me, Mr. T, number one for me so far was Emil Ferris. My favorite thing is monsters, and this only won out because of how unique this story was. Everything from all of the art being done on kind of like this loose leaf paper, just pen and ink. Um, just I've never experienced a comic like this. Still kind of heavy subject matter at times, but a really nice mix of kind of comedic as well too. Um, and again, it's those page layouts, it's the layouts and how she tells the story throughout this whole book that really just blew me away. Another very easy read, sitting, and I just absorbed it right away. I didn't have any issues following the story. Um, and coming to these pages where she just takes some time and does kind of like these homages to all these old horror comics, was just beautiful. And really close alongside that to the other thing that I managed to that I had in my collection there was the free comic book day one from a number of years ago, 2019, I guess. Yeah, it says 2019 on the back in my little stamp. But I thought this was a nice kind of additional note to this graphic novel. And I mean, everybody has said it. She's been working on part two forever. I really hope that it does see the light of day, um, because I just thought it was an exceptional work for somebody's first graphic novel. Yeah, what can I say? I've said it all before. My favorite things is monsters. Number one for the Fantagraphics list. So next week, I'm going to. I've got a list with all of the European stuff that I've read this year so far, from Catalan Communications, from Cinebook, from Dargo, from NBM, from Humanoids. So I'm kind of going to lump all of those in together. And honestly, out of everything that I've read, the European stuff just continually is right at the top of my list, because there's really nothing that I've read that I didn't like. There was some I liked more than others, but the European stuff really nailed it for me, and just continues to do so every time I discover something new. And then, like I said, we're going to hit the other list where I think I did a top 20, because the other list is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like 7 pages long. Of stuff, and it really just encompasses a lot of books there. So does favorite thing feel like it is leading to a second volume? Well, that's the thing. It's not that you're left on a cliffhanger by any stretch. I feel like it's just one of those stories where she's just established this world, established this family. I'm sure there's a lot more stories that she can tell with this family. My hope is that if she does decide to revisit it and it actually comes out, I mean, if it doesn't come out, I don't think it spoils this read whatsoever. It's still a phenomenal book. One of the hopes for me, anyway, is that if she does revisit it, I would like to see kind of these characters evolve and grow older. Pardon me. Instead of just telling more stories of kind of the same time period, I'd love to see, like, I don't know, 5 or 10 years later, and just kind of follow these people, especially the main character, maybe throughout her life if she decides to kind of put a lot of time into it. I think would be really cool to see this kind of journey of this child into adulthood. Yeah, there was Tylox. There was my favorite thing is Monsters, and then there was the Barry Windsor Smith that was just called Monsters. Both of those highly recommended. If you don't know either of them, highly recommended. Monsters came out this year. My favorite thing is Monsters 2018, maybe. So yeah, short answer, Damien. It's okay if she doesn't. It's just me being greedy. I want more stories. Yeah, 2018. I just want more stories set in this world and this family and this creator. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. And see if we can get the outro music going here. So come back next week and we'll get we'll have some more comics for you. Tylox, Damien, Cthulhu Han, Luke, Larasa, 64-page special. Who else was here? Chaos and Comics as well. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you later.